Hey there, everybody. This is Miss Moran. I'm one of the 328 teachers, so if you're listening to this from Mrs. Eggerding's class or Miss Roberts' class, nice to meet you. So we're going to be taking a look here at a second calculator skills video. You'll see a few of these throughout the year. And this one is going to be solving equations by looking at intersections. And we're going to be using the graphing calculator to assist us in this. So have your calculator ready and we'll get started. And you think, why do we need to solve equations using the calculator? Can't we just, combine the like terms and get x by itself? And sometimes that works, often that works, but in some cases that is not the most efficient way of solving. So why are we doing this is because there's going to be equations that solving them algebraically will be either difficult or undesirable. Okay, so that's a possibility. So go ahead and write down this first example, and if you need to, pause the video to write down the example, and then we're going to go ahead and use the calculator. So pause now if you need to. All right, so what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to be looking at the intersection, which means we need to make this two separate equations because you need two equations for an intersection to occur. So I'm going to split it at the equal sign, and I'm going to write them as y1 equals the square root of 7 x minus the square root of 3. Note that the x is not under the radical, it's a coefficient. So the square root of 7 is the coefficient of x. And our second one is the right-hand side, which is y2 equals 1.5x minus pi. And our calculator has a pretty nice feature here, and we're going to be using the y equals, which allows us to graph it. So if you want to go ahead and press y equals, now there's a few things you want to look at on this screen. First, you want to make sure that the plots, where it says right up here, I'm blinking on it there, it's black. If those are highlighted black, then you want to arrow up and press enter. So here's what it looks like if it's black. We don't want it to be black. So arrow up and turn that off by just pressing enter again, and you want them all to be white. Those are used for statistics, and we're not working with that, but it actually prevents your graph from graphing. So get rid of those. The second thing is if you have anything here because you borrowed this calculator from someone, just press clear and anything that's typed on Y1 will be cleared out. Okay, so I'm going to enter the first equation here, which is my left-hand side of the original equation, into y1. So that is the square root of 7. The square root is located here on the left-hand side, kind of diagonal from the 7. I'll press second square root, and it opens a set of parentheses. I'll put the 7 inside and then close the parentheses, which is above the 9. Then the x. There are letters above each of these keys here, which you can access, but the most convenient x is the one that's located diagonal from the second key. And so this right here at the top left-hand corner of your calculator is the most efficient x. You just press it and you got an x, so you don't need any extra buttons. And then I'm going to subtract minus the square root of 3, and I'll close those parentheses as well. To get to y2, you just arrow down, and I'm going to type in 1.5. Again, the x key is over on the upper left-hand corner, and then minus, and now I need the pi key. We're not going to use the approximation of pi because we want the most accurate answer. So we're going to actually use the pi button in the calculator, which is over here on the right-hand side. So I'll press second and pi. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is we're going to press the graph key. I want to see where is this intersection located. Now, since we're trying to solve for x, I'm interested in the x value that makes these two equations equal. So that's what we're looking for, is x. The y value is the outcome of using that x on either individual side, but we're really just trying to find x here in this situation. So I notice that my x is negative. It's located over here in the third quadrant, so I'm going to have a negative outcome for this equation. So the next steps, and let me just say here, if you need to, if you do not have this screen when you graph, just a little troubleshooting, try pressing zoom 6 and it resets this screen so that the window is 10 by 10, and you should have seen that in the first calculator skills video. Alright, so the next step we're going to take here is we're going to press second and the trace and second trace is actually calc, which means calculations. We're going to be determining things. So second trace, trace is above the arrows, and we get this calculate menu, and we're going to choose number 5, which is the intersection, because we want to know where do these two lines intersect. You may do one of two things, arrow down, or you may press the number 5. If you arrow down, you have to press enter as well. All right, so at the top of the calculator screen, you'll see that it says y1, and it actually gives you your y1 equation. What it's asking is this the curve you want to look at? And it uses curve because we may not be graphing lines. So curve is just the general term for this equation. Do you want this function? And the answer is yes, so I'm going to press enter. And then the next one, y2, comes up and it says, is this the second curve that you want to use to find the intersection? And my answer is yes, so I press enter. You think, well, why does it need to ask it if there's only 2 in there? Well, because you can actually list 10 different equations. So if you've got a bunch of different lines that you're trying to find the intersections of 2 particular ones, maybe it's y1 and y7. But in this case, we only had 2, but it does ask that question every time. The third question here is, do you want to guess? And that means that you're going to be moving. You can move the left and right arrows, and you kind of just get a little closer to the intersection point. It doesn't have to be exact. We're letting the calculator do that part. So I arrowed over. You can see the little blinking, I call it like a little frogger. The little frogger blinker guy is right there towards the intersection. It says guess. I press enter, and at the very bottom of your screen, it tells you the intersection. Keep in mind, I do not need to know the y value. The y value is if I substitute in the x on both sides. Well, then it'll be the same y value. And it's the x value I'm interested in. So my solution is an approximation, which I would assume so given all of these coefficients and constants I'm dealing with. Negative 1.23 is my approximate x value. All right, we're going to try one more example together. It should go a little bit faster since you know where the keys are. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to write down that example. All right, so then we're going to go ahead back into y equals, and we're going to clear these out by just pressing y equals and then clear, and then you can arrow down and press clear. So back into y1, we're going to enter the left-hand side here, which is y. So y equals the cosine of x, and on the other side we have 2x minus 7. So I've got this trig function, which you may have never graphed before, and then I have a line, and I want to see where they intersect. So this is not something I'm going to be doing algebraically, so we're just going to go ahead and use a calculator to do it. So in here I'm going to press cosine. Cosine is located 2 keys above the 8. And I am going to use x, which is located again diagonal from the second key, and I will close that parentheses. Then I'm going to arrow down to y2, and I'm going to type in 2, x is up here, and then minus 7. Be sure to not use the negative sign. That will not work for you. Make sure you use the subtraction sign. All right, the last thing we're going to check here is our mode. So if you press the mode, which is located next to the second key, you want to be sure that it says radians and not degrees. So you want this to be in radian. That's just 2 different measurements that we use for trig functions, either degrees or radians, and we want it to be in radians. All right, so now that you've got these entered in y equals, we've checked the mode, then press graph, and we'll take a look to see where this intersects. The first one graphed is our cosine function, and then there's the line 2x minus 7. It looks like they intersect with a positive x value, so I know my outcome should be positive. We'll go back to that second trace menu where we have our calculate options, and we will choose number 5. Again, you can arrow down and press enter, or you can type the number 5. Again, it's going to ask you, is this the first curve? Yes, it is. And is this the second curve? You can see it blinking, but you can also identify that it says 2x minus 7. And then it says guess. So I'll arrow over. You can only use left and right here. So I arrow over. I get close to it. I press enter. And the outcome is x is approximately 3.00. So I'm just using 2 decimal places. All right, so at this point, if you have any questions about using this, please make sure you write down your questions, or you can put them on Schoology so that your classmates or your teacher can answer them. But otherwise, bring them to class so we can discuss it.